This is Robert Wolf reporting from the center of the Mopar world for the second weekend of March 2022. The Big Easy Mopar Show just outside of New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This doesn't look like any Mopar show I've ever been to before. And you're right, it doesn't. The New Orleans Mopar Show is truly unique. It's really just a party with a Mopar show at the end of it. So how did I find myself in this situation? Let's start from the beginning of the day.
The Big Easy Mopar Association, we actually do 3 shows. We do these 2, and we're in charge of Mopar Day at the Bay, which is on Thursday of Cruising the Coast, which is a real nice event. We had 400 Mopars there last year, so very, very nice event. Right now, before we get started with the meeting agenda, I would like you to find someone you don't know and say hello and introduce yourself and make a new Mopar friend.
Hello, Robert. Hey, Richie. Nice to meet y'all. Hey, I know you.
We're leaving here and we're going to the Jackson Barracks Military Museum, which is about a 5-minute ride at the most. It is not as big as the D-Day Museum, but every bit as nice. There is a second floor. We have people that take you, kind of tell you what's going on over there. They're waiting for us. If the brass allows us, we're going to go ride by the antebellum homes on the river where the big brass live. They actually live in old plantation antebellum homes on the river, but that's entirely up to them. It's a day-to-day operation. But we're going to start with the Military Museum. It's not just, it's the National Guard, so it's a lot of things. My favorite exhibit there is the Katrina exhibit. And you'll know it when you see the broken hammer. It was something they took off of somebody's house that said, mean dog, ugly woman, broken hammer, and it tells you the story. So, and it's kind of more of a hands-on in D-Day Museum. Everything's close. You could touch. There's some cars in there. There's some tanks in there. There's all kind of stuff. So we're going to be there about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Back on those buses, and we go to the old car show site, which is called Lake Town in Kenner. If anybody's been at our old car show site, we had to leave there because they were going to tear it down and put condos, retail, shopping, amphitheater, private marina, yada yada. It's still there, but the condition isn't as good as it should be because it's scheduled for demolition. But anyway, we were going someplace else, and everybody knows Ken died in November. Ken Mosier. Allie's here with us. She has Ken with him. It's Ken's wishes that some of his ashes would be spread at the old car site. So we canceled what we had going. We're going out there, and we have hired these are professionals to do a second line jazz funeral for Ken. Now, I ask everybody to please participate in this. This is a tradition in New Orleans, goes back over 200 years, when people will wait in their homes, which is nothing unusual, but every neighborhood had a cemetery. Everyone that was walking distance. They would hire a band. The people would have a procession. The music was slow and somber. On the way there, they buried the person, and then on the way back, the music was more upbeat. People danced, and they had food, which we will have. And this was a way that the people put closure to the loved ones that passed. When they came back, it was happiness. They're going on to a better place. He was watching over us, so we'll be doing that. I'd like everyone to participate. It's not hard. You gotta walk, okay? Yeah. So after that, we're gonna eat. Then we're going to an alligator farm. And everybody says, oh man, I know about alligator. Bullshit, you know nothing about them. I promise you. It is unbelievably interesting how they farm alligators. They just like cows. It's unreal. You're gonna love it. And I have paid for everybody in this room. It's called Catch a Gator. And I said, it sounds great, but don't tell me what it is, ladies. Just do it. You know, so I don't know what it is, but apparently everybody's going to catch an alligator when they go out there. Hopefully it's a little one, not a big one. But, that's going to wrap up at about 4 p.m. We got about another 45-minute drive back to our new location. We have a new location. Our old location was good, but the roof didn't seal and it had no sides. So if it was cold, it was cold. And if it rained in the damn place. And you know, anyway, so we're going to be at a place called Dockville, which has air-conditioned heating, stage, kitchen, bar, a lot of seating, air-conditioned heat, got roof, got walls, yada, yada, yada. Great location. Down here they have what they call a Miro Foundation. and this foundation was set up to better the parish of St. Bernard where you're at. You're not in Orleans Parish, you're in St. Bernard Parish. We will not be going in Orleans Parish today at all. It's just too much malarkey in the parish. Our mayor is just over her head. She doesn't have the skill sets to run a big city. We're staying out of there. So we're not going in New Orleans, we're staying in different parishes today. But anyway, the Miro Foundation is to better St. Bernard Parish. And they have donated this facility to us. Let us use it because we're a nonprofit, they're a nonprofit. I think y'all like it. You will see some table decorations. They're alligator heads. They're from the farm you're going to see. We took seafood gumbo off the menu this year and replaced it with alligator sauce pecan, which we got the meat from those guys. So you're going to see the heads and eat the meat of, I guess, the parents of what you're going to school with today. So, but anyway, alligator sauce pecan, it's a specialty. Try a little bit. It's really good. You'll love it. In addition to grilled oysters, boiled shrimp, fried chicken, salad, sandwiches, yada yada, we got it all. You won't leave hungry. We have hurricanes, hurricane shots from Pat O'Brien's, wine, beer, yada yada yada, band, and we have some entertainment which nobody knows except me what it will be, and I've already picked out my victims. So I usually meet my victims, participants. So anyway, I go to 5 or 6 car shows out of town every year. I talk to people and I pick them. They don't even know they got picked. So it's a good day. It's going to be a great day. Last year we raised $5,000 for Children's Hospital and had a great weekend. So thank you everybody for that. It was a very nice donation.
The first day of the NOLA Mopar show is a guided tour where all you have to do is sit back, relax on a chartered bus, and take in the adventures that the club has planned for you.
Go ahead and get started. It'll just be a few minutes just to give you an idea of how we're set up and what to look for and a few things to look for in here. My name's Red Careerwood. I'm the historian for the Louisiana National Guard. My office is right out of here at Jackson Barracks. Jackson Barracks, you may know, has been here since 1830s. It was an Army base prior to that, and then became a National Guard base in 1921. So it was U.S. Army and then transferred to the state of Louisiana National Guard in the 1920s. So it has a little bit of both active duty and National Guard. This museum itself is, you will see some Jackson Barracks history here, but it's more dedicated to the history of the Louisiana National Guard at a statewide level, which goes back to the old state militia that goes 1700s, 1800s. They evolved into the modern National Guard, so that's why we tell their story as well. The citizen soldier, the story of the citizen soldier. So, what is militia? What is a citizen soldier? These are people who are trained as soldiers, but they have regular jobs, normally, but they set aside a certain amount of time to do military duty, and they would be called up for local events, for state events, and now modern times that means hurricanes, floods, things like that. It used to mean maybe actually defending the country against something in the older days, and they do get called to U.S. Army or Air Force duty for overseas activity as well. So they have multiple roles, called the dual status role, state and federal. So we're set up, this museum is set up sort of backwards in time. So we start with more recent events and then move backwards in time, and then you go upstairs and it goes to the old militia days. So on this side of the stairs and curving behind it, you will see mostly Hurricane Katrina related activity, and that is because Katrina was the biggest disaster, the biggest emergency response we've ever seen in the country. So pretty much everything the Guard does in terms of state emergency activity, you could see in Katrina, happened during Katrina. Also, a lot of lessons learned because nobody was ready for that level of an event. So that's this story over here. This helicopter right here, this Huey, that was actually used in the rooftop rescues during Katrina, rescuing people off roofs. If you see this tattered American flag up here, most flags that are in that condition would be ceremonially destroyed out of respect. That was the flag that was flying over Duncan Plaza in New Orleans during Katrina. A Louisiana and Oklahoma guardsman went through chest deep waters, got it down, and it was decided to keep it for history's sake. If you see all those flags across the back, that gives you some indication of how big the response was. Bell Chase, down the road, that was the Air Force Base there is where most of the soldiers from other states were coming in, National Guard soldiers from other states. Most of them gave a flag from their state or territory, and that's almost all 50. There's a couple that did come through Bell Chase. Every state and territory was involved in some capacity. Even Hawaii and Alaska, they might not have had troops on the ground here, but they were supporting in some way. So that gives you an indication of how big it was. After you go around the back, or you don't have to follow this exact path, by the way. You can just kind of go wherever you want. But on this side of the stairs, that's where you're going to see Iraq, Afghanistan, more recent activity, overseas activity. That side of it, the federal side of what they do. And it's not just infantry. They have engineers, support, aviation, all kinds of different things going on. Some pretty cool little artifacts in there to involved mostly from the Iraq deployments that are pretty neat if you check out some of those little artifacts. When you push further through, you'll go into Desert Storm, Operation Desert Storm, Gulf War. There's pretty heavy guard response, guard taking part of that as well. You'll notice a bunch of weapons, AK-47s and some other weapons. Those were captured from enemy troops by Louisiana Guard troops. That's not allowed anymore. War trophies aren't a big thing anymore. Desert Storm was the last time that was allowed. So that's something worth noticing in there. Then you push through to the other side of the hallway. You get into the Cold War and the World Wars. Cold War, some really cool things in there. You can actually get into the cockpit of an F-4 fighter jet that was cut off. So it's the front end of an F-4 fighter. Both seats you can sit in, take selfies, whatever you want. That's one of our little hands-on things we have. You can also go and sit in the Hummer on the Desert Storm exhibit. That's also for hands-on. You can climb into it. We welcome you to do so. Otherwise, most things just kind of prefer you don't climb on or touch too much. But Cold War, you have that. Then you go into World War II. The entire National Guard, people aren't really aware of that, but the entire National Guard was activated to World War II when fought as part of the Army. So that story is there. Then you get into World War I, similar situation, smaller scale. One of the things, two pretty cool artifacts to notice in the World War I exhibit. There's a 1917 Cadillac Command Car, one of the first Cadillacs to roll off the line, or at least very early. That carried John J. Pershing when he was in Louisiana, and actually stayed on post. There's a picture of him on post in there. There's also you'll notice a little tank with a strange camouflage pattern. It's a French Renault tank that was used in World War I, one of the first tanks. They were highly maneuverable. There was the tank that inspired Patton to become a tank, armor officer. And that was actually a gift from the government of France to the state of Louisiana after World War I, as a thank you for Louisiana service in World War I, as well as just kind of the French connection there with the state of Louisiana. Then you go upstairs, you go into the older days, you get into, you'll first see the Spanish-American War. It's kind of an interesting story. A lot of people aren't familiar with it. We have Civil War and Mexican War. We haven't really developed yet. There's some artifacts up there worth checking out, but the full exhibit has not been finished yet. Then you have Battle of New Orleans. A lot of things there that you may not have known before. Are you guys mostly from the area?
No.
No, okay. So there's probably a lot that you don't know about Battle of New Orleans. It's kind of skipped over in most history books these days, but it was, we down here, because the battle was fought about a mile away. So here it's kind of a big deal. There's a lot about that. You might find it pretty interesting. And then there's a exhibit about the women in the Guard, which is kind of interesting. Kind of covers women in the military in general, but it focuses more tightly on Louisiana National Guard women. It's a little bit out of date. Went in a couple years ago, so some of there's current people who are listed as colonels who are now generals and so forth, but it's pretty pretty cool little exhibit. And there's also a colonial and early American history up to just before War of 1812. There's about colonial and French militia in Louisiana. And there's a little bit about Jackson Barracks itself.
In the New Orleans tradition, they don't do funerals, so to speak. They do celebrations of life. Because New Orleans is all about parades, what you see here is a 200-year-old tradition of what's called a second line. Loved ones march to somber music to the deceased's final resting spot. It's hard to do. Ken was a really good friend of mine. And Allie's crying. I don't want to cry, but
It's okay.
I was at his celebration of life last week in Indy, and I was listening to everybody's talking about him, trying to figure out what he would like to have said about him. And I was watching the pictures going through that Allie had laid out on a screen while everybody was talking, and I noticed, a lot of places that I'd been that he'd been, and New Orleans kept coming up because it was very special to him. I know he loved it down here, and in his will, so to speak, he wrote two specific things where he wanted his ashes. One at the Indy drag race, which Allie's going to put, I think, in a parachute that will come out at the race this year and spread his ashes. Really cool. Any one of us could say that's where we want our ashes. But he didn't just say that. The second thing he wrote is he wanted his ashes in the lake right here in Kenner, which he considered to be New Orleans. And the reason for that was when he came down here, you guys adopted him like a brother. He just fell in love with the area, but more so he fell in love with the Mopar Club. So you accepted Ken with all of his vices, and that's the way New Orleans does. They accept people and they bring them in. And I think rather than tell you a story about Ken, I think what Ken would like me to do is just say that he loves all you guys, and he will, be here with you with his ashes forever. He loved the club, and it was the people here that he loved, and it's very special to him to be here. I feel that's what he would want me to say.
Okay. I was going to ask Mr. Herb to say a few words next. Mr. Herb, we have time constraints.
Ken was my friend. He was a true Mopar person. I've been to every Mopar show that Paul has had, from the first one, and Ken was at most of them. I don't
All of them.
remember. He was either the first one. I couldn't
Yes.
remember.
Oh, yeah.
But the problem with getting older is you lose so many of your friends. And there's nobody to replace them. People like Ken. He did some fantastic work on cars, restored some beautiful cars. Had him at Rob's Hall of Fame show. Ken always had a car out front. He was just a true Mopar person. Never met a stranger, talked to everybody. And that's the way Mopar people did it. And Ken was a good one.
I'm Allison's dad. I don't know, most of you probably know me, but the best thing I can say, even though Ken always, at the end of the day, always told you he loved you. Even when we were taking care of him at the end. But this picture here, this is Ken. He loved it down here, and the day that he did this was so funny. But this is Ken right here.
Introduce yourself.
I'm John Rizak. Ken restored a car for me. He introduced me to this area and the club, and told me how much I'm going to love it down here and the people, and really did. But the one thing I want everybody to know about Ken is he's a guy that would do anything for anyone, and he's a great guy.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, anybody else like to say a few words?
I have something to tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Sugar Ray. I'm a visitor down here. But one thing somebody told me a long time ago is that when you have the celebration of life with somebody, you can always tell what kind of life they had by how many friends come by to remember them and give them a good send-off.
Yeah, I met Ken a few years ago when me and my wife started restoring cars, and he really meant a lot to us. And he finally came up to me one day down here. We had our blue Dart here, and he said, "Y'all were at McCacken, aren't you?" He said, "Nice job." And he patted me on the back, and I thought that was great coming from him because I looked up to him. He was a good restorer. And I remember this picture, and I remember walking up to him and said, "You still got that on?" He said, "Yeah, I need a can opener." Couldn't get it off. But yeah, he was a super nice guy.
Anybody else? Come on, everybody knew Ken. Don't be shy. It's all friends here. Come on, don't be shy.
I'm Louis Canellis. I know Ken for many years, mostly from his vintage specialty parts that he was selling. And here's a story that reflects right back to what this gentleman said about wanting to do anything and help anything for anybody. I mean, I live in Ottawa, Illinois, and he lived in Indiana when he had the finer details restoration shop, and I was having trouble restoring a 71 Challenger convertible. Ken offered, and I don't know the guy all that well. I was talking to him as I was buying parts, and I don't know him all that well. But he offered to come to Ottawa, where I live, which is a couple hundred miles away, and assist me in the restoration of this car. And I'm thinking, wow, this guy doesn't even know me that well, and he wants to help. So I feel that I want to pass that along at this event. Right.
Keep it short and sweet, because I put this in my phone because I knew I wouldn't be able to hold it together. But short and sweet, you know, like Rob said, his request was to have some of his ashes spread down here. And I mean, it was no question, there was no better time than doing it at the Mopar show. It's what he would have wanted. It was his favorite show. We made so many memories and family, and I have this at home.
Oh, do you?
It's hanging on the back of the office chair. That was his one of his favorite things that he brought home from here. So he loved all of you, and we loved him.
Great. Thank you, Alan. That's perfect. So I think I go lost if you can, and I'm gonna tell this story, and some of you may have heard it. My wife says I'm getting very forgetful, and I am. And maybe you have, maybe you heard, but we started this, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. We started in a white 12-passenger Chevy rental van. Okay?
About 15.
15, okay. So, and Ken was there, and it was actually at my house. We had, you know, it was 15 people, not a big deal for a party there. So everybody's having a great time, talking, cars, eating, you know, we're having a great time. I look in the back, and this guy sitting in a corner in the dark smoking a cigarette. I said, who the hell is that son of a bitch over there? So, because he was pouting, and I don't like pouting. I just don't care for it. So I'll go up to him and say, hey, I'm Paul Reynolds. And he says, hey, how you doing? I said, you're pouting at my party. He said, what? I said, you got the fungi face on at my party. I ain't gonna allow it. And he says, I'm Ken Mosier. Like, you know, who the hell are you talking to like that? I'm a Ken Mosier. I said, man, I don't care who you are. You join the party, you go sit in the van, you know? So he said, all right, go get me a beer, and I joined the party. And we became very good friends after that. And he was the greatest guy on the planet. Anywhere you went with him, you couldn't take your wallet out. He always treated everywhere. And he, like Rob said in his article, he up there about 10,000 RPM. He lived life to the fullest. He went hard. And I'm going to miss him. I talked to him over the phone. He was in Danville, Indiana. I'm down here in New Orleans, but you're 100% right. Every time we ended the conversation, he'd say, I love you. And I was like, oh, not again. You know, but every time. You know, and finally, after a couple of years, I just thought, yeah, I love you too. So I'm going to miss him. He was really a great guy, good Mopar guy, and a huge supporter of the New Orleans show. He loved this show, loved to come down here and just have a great time. So.
After the formalities, everyone marches back under upbeat music, celebrating the life of the deceased and releasing both their grief and their loved ones to heaven.
Most people do say alligators are lazy, but they are a cold-blooded animal. They're all about saving energy. They go, typically in the wild, they'll go weeks without eating through the hottest days in summertime. So most of their time on land, again, is spent sunbathing. If I start to bother them, they'll get to moving around a little bit. Now, usually when they move, they do pick up their belly, and about half of their tail will come up off the ground. Their claws are mainly used for what he's showing you here. They do dig into the ground. It helps them pull out of muddy rivers and bayous they spend a lot of time in. And in the wintertime, they'll burrow into the mud.
It's good.
I heard it was very nice.
This is Hurricane, and this is King Cake Vodka. Welcome.
Hey, this is King Cake.
Yeah, put some shots in people that don't shut up. Well, welcome to Dockville, everybody. And first I want to ask you, how was your day? And when I told you at 7:30 this morning that you can learn more about alligators if you ever wanted to know, am I right or am I right? So I'm glad I had a good day. Who'd like to do it again next year? That's a pretty good percentage, okay.
Okay, one more for the road, and then I gotta get some sleep. The car show starts bright and early in the morning, and right now, I'm not so sure how bright and early I'm gonna be. The NOLA show attracts about 200 cars, and I must say, over the last several years I have found some real jewels here. There's no doubt COVID restrictions have slowed down the potential growth of this show. Even in 2022, planning was pushed to the absolute last minute. Getting this show pulled off to this extent and uninterrupted during COVID is a true testament to the organizers' dedication to the success of this show. As the NOLA show goes forward, I truly believe it will attract more and more attendees. This is never going to be the biggest Mopar show you go to, but I guarantee it will be one of the most fun. As for show cars this year, my pick for Best of Show goes to Rick Wyman's 68 Roadrunner. As for survivors, this unrestored TA Challenger belonging to Richard Myers is one of the best I've seen anywhere, and certainly the best at this show. As for Best Modern Motivated, this was the very first show that I didn't find a single old Mopar that was running a modern powertrain, with the exception probably of Herb McCandless's 300, but I can't pick that one because he did every show. As always, look for the standouts from this show in the pages of Mopar Collector's Guide magazine. And if you like this coverage of the NOLA Mopar show, please hit the like button. To see more Mopar show coverage, click the subscribe to Mopar TV button. It's absolutely free. This has been Robert Wolf reporting from the center of the Mopar world, and until next month, I'll see you on the pages of MCG.